Was that done at any time in this interview?
Did I lie to her? I don't recall lying to her, no.
All right, this time the state would rest.
Okay. And Ms. Boone, I have a couple of questions to go over with you. Similarly to our conversations earlier today, I don't want to know about any of the substance of any conversations you've had with your attorneys, just whether or not you've had certain conversations. So far, you've been present throughout the entire trial process. You've been seated at counsel's table. You have the opportunity to observe the evidence presented by the state, as well as the direct and cross-examination of the state's witnesses. Are you satisfied with your attorney up and until this point?
Yes.
Now, I'm going to ask you some questions again about specific conferences and conversations you have with your attorneys. I don't want to know those specifics, just whether or not those things have been had. Have you had the opportunity to discuss with your attorneys whether or not you would like to testify as a witness in this case?
Yes.
Do you need any additional time to discuss that matter with your attorneys?
No.
Have your attorneys discussed with you the potential benefits and potential harms of testifying as a witness in this case?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the advice from your counsels?
Yes.
Do you understand that attorneys can make most of the decisions about trial strategy? They cannot determine whether or not a defendant testifies or not. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Not even the court can interfere with the defendant's right to make that decision. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that it is your decision and your decision alone?
Yes.
While counsel can give you advice on whether or not it would be wise for you to testify in this case, do you understand that you can ignore counsel's advice because the final decision is yours?
Yes.
Do you understand that you have the right to remain silent?
Yes.
Did you hear me explain to the jury at the beginning of the trial how the right to remain silent is absolute, and the fact that a defendant did not testify cannot be considered as evidence of guilt or influence their verdict in any way?
Yes.
Before a jury begins its deliberations, the court will read another jury instruction if you decide not to testify. This instruction orders the jury not to consider your silence as evidence of guilt or to consider your decision at all. Would you like me to read that instruction for you at this time?
Yes.
It is instruction 3.9a, entitled Defendant Not Testifying. The Constitution requires the state to prove its accusations against the defendant. It is not necessary for the defendant to disprove anything, nor is the defendant required to prove her innocence. It is up to the state to prove the defendant's guilt by evidence. The defendant exercised a fundamental right by choosing not to be a witness in this case. You must not view this as an admission of guilt or be influenced in any way by her decision. No juror should ever be concerned that a defendant did or did not take the witness stand to give testimony in the case. Do you have any questions about this instruction?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand that if you choose to testify, you are waiving your right to remain silent?
Yes.
That means once you begin to answer questions, you have to answer all questions unless I instruct you not to answer a question. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You cannot pick and choose which questions you want to answer and not answer. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that if you refuse to answer any questions, the court can impose sanctions, such as holding you in contempt, striking your entire testimony, and instructing the jury not to consider any of your testimony? Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you choose to testify, you will also be subject to cross-examination and impeachment. That means the state could ask you about any prior felony convictions or convictions for crimes of dishonesty if you have any such convictions. If you have any such convictions, the questions will be limited to whether you have such convictions and the number of same. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Are you aware if you have any such convictions?
Yes.
State? Are you aware of any felony convictions or convictions for crimes of dishonesty?
No, I believe she's answering an affirmative. She's aware that she doesn't.
Okay, so you have no such convictions. Okay, thank you for that clarifications, ma'am. As there are no convictions, and that number is not in dispute, the state will not be permitted to inquire into those matters. Have you had enough time to discuss your decision to testify or not testify with your attorneys?
Yes.
Again, do you need any additional time?
No.
Has anyone forced you, threatened you to get you to testify or not testify in this case?
No.
Has anyone made any promises to you to get you to testify or not testify in this case?
No.
Are you satisfied with your counsel's advice so far in this case?
Yes.
Are you making this decision freely and voluntarily?
I am.
Did anyone force you, threaten you, or coerce you to testify in this case?
No.
Would you like to testify or not testify as a witness in this case?
Testify.
Okay. And ma'am, similarly, after you've had the opportunity to converse with your lawyers again, I want to confirm that you're on board with the strategy that they've utilized in your defense in this case,
Yes, I understand.
including calling you first.
Yes.
Okay. All right. With that, state has rested. The defense is going to put on a case. Defense, Mr. Owens, you can call your first witness.
The defense would call Sarah Boone. It's sometime after you and Brian split up, did you meet George Torres?
Yes.
All right, could you tell the jury how you met George Torres?
I met George when I decided to buck up, I guess, and was tired of trying to patch things up with my ex-husband. And I decided to go one day for a walk across the street and go have a beer by myself and sit and people watch just to get out of my house and a change of scenery.
All right, now is this your apartment?
No, this is the marital home.
So you met George Torres before you got the apartment?
Yes.
Okay. And you met him at a bar across the street from the marital home?
Yes, we had a mutual friend there.
Were you introduced?
Yes.
All right, how did you and George get along when y'all first met?
Very well. It was strange how quickly we hit things off and had so much in common. And I never thought that he would be interested in someone like me. And I just couldn't believe that he was actually interested in me and said a lot of nice things. And 1 hour ended up being 4 hours from when we had first met. And then we would always have something to talk about.
Why couldn't you believe that he would be interested in you?
He was very handsome. He was very funny. He was smart, and I would show up in workout clothes and disheveled hair, and I guess I kind of felt broken from being in the process of the divorce that he knew about. But then one of the things that we could relate also was the fact that he was here in Florida because he had just been divorced from his second wife. So that was another topic that he and I could compare notes on.
So eventually the divorce was settled. Did you get your own place?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that after at first you lived in your parents' home, correct?
Yes, until I was married.
And then you moved directly in with Brian,
Yes.
and then y'all lived in the marital home, correct?
Yes.
And then you got this apartment.
Yes.
So that was the first time in your life that you actually had your own place.
Yes.
And what was the address?
4748 France Court, apartment number 3.
And what city is that in?
It's in Winter Park.
How far is that from here?
20 minutes?
Okay. So you got that apartment, and initially were you by yourself?
No.
All right, tell the jury.
In the almost year, about 10 months of separation from Brian, my ex-husband, that is the time when I met George. And my ex-husband was trying to buy me out or force me out of our marital home, and I needed to find somewhere to live. And
So did you and George agree to rent the apartment?
yes, I needed extra income. We could not afford it just on my own.
You were receiving some income from the marriage settlement, were you not?
Yes.
So you did have a consistent monthly income coming in from the marriage settlement,
For the most part, yes.
but you needed more to live.
Yes, to pay the bills and for rent.
So did you and George have some agreement?
We did.
All right, what was the agreement?
The agreement was that if I decided for he and I to live with one another, because it would be under my name, that he would help with the monthly bills and on a regular basis where it wouldn't be something that I would have to argue with him about. It would just be an automatic, make sure that everything's paid first, and then from there, hopefully have some fun with it.
Okay. As the day wore on, the more you consumed, the more effects you felt from the alcohol.
Of course, yes.
Both of you.
Yes.
So you would agree, would you not, that at the time y'all were trying to figure out something to do and you put your head down on the couch, that y'all, would it be fair to say that y'all were intoxicated?
Yes.
Tell the jury what happened.
At one point, I guess he knew that I couldn't come up with anything else, tapped me on my knee and said, "You're it." So from there, I ran up the stairs and hid into our shower, just waiting for him to find me so we could hopefully go to sleep soon at some point. And
Your shower, is it a tub or just a walk-in?
it's a tub, but it's in the master bedroom, and you have to go all the way upstairs. You have to go in the bedroom, and then you have to go into the bathroom part, and then there's the shower part.
So did you lay down in the tub?
At one point, yes, I was.
So you were hiding.
I was trying.
Okay. And did you believe that he was going to come try to find you?
Yes.
Did you wait?
Yes, for quite some time.
All right. Then what did you decide to do?
That I decided that I need to go to sleep. I'm picking my son up the next day, and we need to start wrapping up the evening. And I went downstairs to find where he was.
And what I think the jury has seen pictures of your, would you call it an apartment or
It's considered a townhome.
a townhome? So you walk down the stairs, right?
Mhm.
And at the bottom of the stairs is a bookshelf here?
Yes, at the very end of it, yes.
Okay. So you walk down the stairs and you turn and look in the living room. What did you see?
I don't even think I made it all the way down the stairwell because I was just looking for him as soon as I could, to hopefully go upstairs as soon as we could. And I looked over and I saw him settling himself in the suitcase.
All right. Tell us about the suitcase. How long, is it an older suitcase?
Yes,
Whose suitcase was it?
this is George's suitcase.
All right. And did he use it for traveling back and forth to Philly?
Yes, I had recently taken him on a trip to go see his children in Pennsylvania, who he hasn't seen in years. And we took that with us. And because of how dilapidated it was, how broken it was, in the end, after that trip, we decided that we would donate it.
All right. And I understand y'all kept the suitcase upstairs.
Yes,
How long did y'all keep it upstairs?
since we had moved in.
Is there a closet up there you kept it in?
Yes, it was in the master closet, the master bedroom closet, all the way in the back because of the size of it, and there was nowhere to put it, so it's all the way in the back.
So when did y'all decide to move it down from upstairs to downstairs? Was it that day or sometime earlier?
No, it was maybe a week or so prior.
Okay. And so what, y'all were gonna donate that to Goodwill or?
Yes, we were going to do, I guess, a spring cleaning. Anyone who has children understands that they grow quickly, and there was a lot of clothes that I needed to go through of my sons, and then also from George and I moving in and just kind of putting everything in there, at one point where we just needed to actually go through it and organize it and get things more in order.
So is that the reason it was downstairs? You were gonna donate it and a bunch of things that you were gonna put inside of it?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So it'd been down there a week, so it was already down there?
Yes, George brought it down.
Okay. So you said that you got down there, you're looking for him, you see him settling into the suitcase.
Yes.
What did you do?
In my head, I said, oh man, we're obviously not going to be going to sleep anytime soon. And I walked over and he was trying to get himself flat, so I couldn't tell that he was in there. And then
Now, let me stop you there. The suitcase, is it the suitcase over here in the
Yes,
box? You've seen it, you saw it.
yes. That's when I went over and decided to videotape to just see the, I guess, the gist in it for him to understand that right now I feel safe and right now I have the ability to actually speak to you in a manner that normally I would not have the ability to do.
And you were intoxicated,
Yes.
and you would agree that you said some things you should not have,
Yes.
but you realized he could not get out and get at you. Is that fair?
At that moment, yes.
So it goes on for about 10 minutes.
Yes.
You heard it here today, did you not?
Yes.
You heard his voice as he was speaking from the suitcase.
Yes.
That was his voice on the video and audio.
Yes.
And you heard your voice on the video and audio.
Yes.
That was your voice.
Yes.
All those things said by the man were said by George in that 2-minute video.
Correct.
All the words said by the female were said by you in that 2-minute video.
Correct.
Were you intending on showing him the video the next day?
Yes.
At the time or the next day, is it fair to say you don't even remember videotaping?
I do not.
So from what you can tell from watching it, did that refresh your memory about that event?
I did.
What you were feeling, what your feelings were at the time, and then just explain that to the jury. You mentioned, you talked about it before. You said he was in that confined space and it was my chance, but do you want to elaborate on that or?
Sure. I want you all to know that the majority of the time, am always afraid and always scared.
All right, well, I understand that. Okay, I understand that. But would it be fair to say that you had some anger at that point?
I did.
Would it be fair to say that you wanted to tell him off to some degree?
I just wanted, yes, for him to have a better understanding, which was the whole point of the videos and documentation prior.
And you could tell that he was uncomfortable.
I'm guessing.
And did you want him to feel some uncomfort?
I did.
Okay. Now, at some point, you turned off the video.
Yes.
And then we saw a second video, which is approximately 11 minutes later. And you've seen that video. It was played to the jury. It was 22 seconds long.
Yes.
And I don't think you speak in that video. You hear George say Sarah one time.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So between the 2-minute video and the 22-second video is an 11-minute period. Would you tell the jury what happened?
We continued to, I guess, speak to one another, and his tone changed, and I knew the tone, and we ended up, I guess, arguing back and forth with one another, and it was the things that he was saying very much frightened me, and cursing at me and threatening me. And
Did he want you to let him out of the suitcase?
I'm sure so.
Okay, go ahead, tell the jury.
And it just got very heated very quickly, and he continued to push on the suitcase. And my fear was that he was going to break out of the suitcase, knowing that it was a broken suitcase. And his hand started to come through. His hand started to come through this way. And so I shook the suitcase. Trying to get his hand to go back in, shaking it, and telling him that, please stop doing this. Please stop doing this to me. Please stop doing this to me.
So his hand actually got out of the suitcase,
Yes,
and you went to the suitcase
yes,
and shook it.
Yes.
Did that force his hand to go back in?
No.
So you're shaking it. Were you shaking it to try to get the suitcase, his hand back in?
Yes.
How long did you shake it?
I don't know.
But his hand was still out.
Yes.
Was he trying to get out?
Forcefully, yes.
Was he angry at you?
Yes.
Were you in fear?
Always.
If he would have gotten out of the suitcase, what would he have done to you?
Like he used to tell me, he probably would have made me unrecognizable, or I would have lost my life.
All right, we're back on the record. State of Florida versus Sarah Boone, case number 2020 CF 2603. Appearances for the state.
Chief Judge Shore on behalf of the state.
William K. State.
Defense.
James Owens from Miss Boone.
Connie Henderson from Sarah Boone.
Kevin Beck on behalf of Sarah.
Ms. Boone is currently seated at counsel's table, wearing the same clothing from this morning. The court has had the opportunity to review the case law, review the arguments provided by both the state and the defense. The court finds that a overt act has been established. The case law is clear that a scintilla of the providing of an overt act is sufficient to provide the self-defense jury instruction. An overt act is not something that's specifically defined in Florida case law. It's something that's from the totality of the circumstances, seemingly under the authorities that the court has reviewed. As such, the court is going to find that under Holland, a overt act has been established and will allow the defense to proceed with evidence of reputation and specific instances of conduct and battered spouse evidence, so long as the necessary predicates are established for those items.
Did George drink too much?
Yes.
Tell the jury about George's drinking.
If George was able to, he would drink from sunup to sundown. And me having my son and trying to work and maintain the home and just have a life, a normal life as best as I could, somehow that upset George. And because I had a certain dollar amount from my divorce settlement, at one point it was from wine we could afford vodka. So a lot of the times he would take my card, my debit card, and go buy the large, we call them handles, of vodka, which is the big bottle. And sometimes he would finish that all off on his own throughout an entire period of a day into an evening. That's honestly where I thought that he was going to be that morning when I came downstairs, because he's notorious for just automatically already being outside from drinking all the time.
All right. And you said you have an alcohol problem. George has an alcohol problem.
Yes.
How did George's drinking adversely affect you?
It would debilitate my ability to help him the way that I was always trying to help him, because it would be one good day, a day of survival, and then it would be another day where I'm having to peel him off of me and call 911.
Why would he get that way? Tell us his pattern as it relates to drinking. And then, is there times when he would get to a state of intoxication where he would get violent against you?
Quite often.
Are those two pictures of your body,
Yes.
do they show injuries to your body?
Yes.
Were those injuries caused by George Torres?
Yes.
Are those photographs a fair and accurate depiction of the injuries you sustained at the hands of George Torres?
On this occurrence, yes.
Do you remember this occurrence?
I don't. It was so often.
You don't remember a specific date,
I don't.
but you're sure that that's you?
Yes.
Is that the injuries that what's the injury to the rib cage?
I don't remember specifically.
Did George cause these injuries?
Yes.
All right. Were y'all both drinking at that time?
I don't remember on this instant.
Is that your hand?
Yes.
Is that your blood on your hand?
Yes, it is.
Is that you standing, looks like in a room with flip-flops?
This is in the kitchen at Brian's house.
Okay, what happened there?
So George was very drunk, and I wanted to leave, and he's notorious for taking my car keys and putting them around his neck and my phone in his crotch area and telling me to come get them. And I really wanted to leave because of how drunk, and I knew the escalation of his anger. I didn't want to be there when it was at its peak. So I tried to take my keys from around him because he kept taunting me to take my keys, come get your keys. And so I attempted to go and get my keys. And so he ended up getting a butcher knife. And I had an opportunity to call Brian to come and help me, to please come pick me up, to come get me. And of course, he brings my son with him. And so I'm in the parking lot asking Brian to please help me get my car keys away from him. And there's neighbors, and it's a scene at this point. And George comes to the doorway of my townhome wielding the butcher knife, saying that, do I curse?
Yeah.
That no one's going to take her fucking keys. No one's going to fucking come into this house. And he's waving the butcher knife. And I walked up to him, and I just wanted to leave. And my little son, who was, I believe, 7 or 8 at the time, just is screaming, give mommy her keys, give mommy her keys, let her leave. Brian was even trying to negotiate with him, saying, please, you know she'll come back, just let her leave. So I went up to try and take the keys from him, and he was pulling on them, and I ended up pulling harder. And he pulled them back again to try to pull me in the house, and I pulled them even harder, and it ripped my finger. And at one point, I had lost the fingernail, and the tip of my pinky was severely gashed.
Ms. Boone, for the jury's sake, is this the picture you were referring to? Is that the nail, or was it on? Still on?
I believe so, yes. I wanted to eat, and while he was drinking, went and made myself, as quickly as I possibly could, a microwave bowl of, I believe it was broccoli and cheddar soup. And I didn't get it out enough time, and he came up behind me and he slapped it out of my hand. And it was a 2nd-degree burn. I went to the hospital for it.
Are those fair and accurate depictions of the injury, the burn to your thigh?
Yes.
You had to go to the hospital as a result of these injuries to your thigh?
Yes. It
Okay.
was extremely painful.
Is that? Is that your thigh
Oh my God, yes.
and your knee?
Yes.
This is a longer story, isn't it? Go ahead and tell.
So George stabbed me in my leg. I almost bled to death.
All right, well, let's go back and explain what led up to that.
I thought it would be nice to cook a nice steak dinner. We don't have 2 nickels to rub together, so I thought it would be special to make a steak dinner and baked potato and go above the normal whatever's left over in the refrigerator. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and George was drinking the entire time, and on the back porch.
You were drinking as well, were you not?
I was drinking. He was on the back porch while I was in the house and I was cooking. And it was one of those where maybe if I start making dinner now, it will be over at a particular time and we can go to bed at a reasonable time. And I even put it in the bedroom and had a movie set up for us to watch. So it would just kind of be dinner in bed. And then he came upstairs and saw that I had made the steak dinner, and I don't know how to describe how drunk he was, but it definitely was not George. And had him come lay on the bed, sit on the bed, and, put the, I got the dogs out, and I presented him with the steak dinner and sat down and was getting ready to start playing the movie. And he starts being very rude and cursing the steak and finding fault with it. And then, I'm having to encourage him to eat. If you want me to cut it up for you, I will cut it up for you. Did you want some more sour cream for your potato? What can I do to make you happier? And then he started to pull on me and kept saying that, that I just want to fuck you on the steak and fuck you on the potatoes. And I took offense to that, and I kept trying to encourage him to eat. I started to eat.
Was this just him really drunk and saying nonsense?
I don't know why he was so angry that day. I don't know if it's because I got steak. I don't know. Most of the time I don't know the reason why. I couldn't take it anymore. Obviously, I was not going to be able to eat. So I started to crawl off of the bed to leave, just the bedroom. And he told me again that I'm not going anywhere, and he stabbed me in my leg, and it crunched. You could hear a noise that it made, and blood just started to come out of my leg, just like a fountain. So I got off of the bed. He's starting to freak out, and grabbed me a towel. I got a wet towel, and I'm sitting here holding the towel, and it's increasingly becoming even more and more saturated by the minute. It's just minutes. So I'm going through towels, and I said, George, I think I need to go to the hospital. This is not stopping to bleed. This is serious. And he got on his knees and begged me, please don't call the police. Please don't call the police. Please don't call the police. And inevitably, he went and got my car keys and put them around his neck again, and my cell phone. So I was not able to call anyone, and I wasn't able to leave in my car. So I figured I would just go downstairs, and I'm just going to go downstairs. And I had propped my foot up on the glass table that we had, and blood is just everywhere. Blood is everywhere. I can't keep up with the amount of blood, and I'm starting to feel very weak and really weird. And he comes downstairs, and he's still begging me, please don't call 911. Please don't call 911. I kept telling him, there's something, this is serious. This is something. Because he knew that he would probably get arrested or something bad would happen to him. So I couldn't take him anymore. He was just all over me, and just, I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding very badly, and he's having me try to console him. And I kept telling him, please, I need to call 911, please. And I said, okay, just give me a moment. And I crawled upstairs to my son's bathroom, which is the furthest bathroom away from everything. And I remember holding onto the sink, and I looked into the mirror, and my lips were blue. And I knew I needed help. I needed help. And he came upstairs looking frantic for me, calling my name. And then I turned to him and I said, please, I'm going to die. I've lost a lot of blood. There's something wrong. My lips are blue. Please, we don't have to call an ambulance. If you could just take me, I'll drive whatever I can do, please, to go to the hospital for this. And he said that before anything happens, I had to concoct a story in order for him to not be arrested or be in trouble when we did inevitably get to the hospital. So I'm sitting there with this blood-soaked towel with blue lips, trying to come up with a story of what I can tell them when I go down there so he's not in trouble, and telling him that it's okay. And I came up with the the story of that we were sword fighting silly after drinking with our steak knives, and he accidentally punctured my leg. And from there,
How did you get to the hospital?
originally, he told me to drive, and because of the amount of alcohol that he drank, and I couldn't. So he got into the driver's seat and drove me, and the entire time he's barking at me to make sure that I get the story straight. We're sword fighting, okay? We were drunk,
Did you go to the
being silly.
emergency room?
Yes,
All right, and did you get treated there?
yes. I was bloody, and I had to go to 2 different hospitals for it.
And you lied to medical personnel about how this happened?
Yes, they brought in sheriffs and everything.
Was it consistent with, they brought in sheriffs? Did you have to answer to the law enforcement officers?
Yes,
Did you stick with the story that you and George had agreed?
I did.
And is this you at the hospital?
Yes.
Is this the stab wound to your leg?
Yes. My foot.
Is this a close-up of the stab wound?
Yes.
And was that, did you hurt your foot?
No, due to the injury, I had other problems with the surgery.
Okay. But you eventually recovered?
Eventually, yes,
Do you have a scar to that effect?
I do. It was the first time that I ever called 911. George and I had gone to a bar across the street within walking distance, and at some point, I asked a guy, or he asked me, somehow or another, it was over a cigarette. And he left, and I didn't know where he went, and the bartender said, oh, he left. He took your car and he left. So,
Why would he do that?
well, I found out when I got home, it was because I spoke to another man. And so I paid the tab, and I walked home, and he's sitting on the back porch with the handle of vodka, and I was walking on eggshells and terrified and kind of treaded lightly when I came in, and he acted all natural and fine. So I didn't know the reason why that he had just gotten up and left with my car. So then he calls me a whore, and then he calls me a slut, and then he calls me a cunt, and gets up and pushes me. And he pushed me with both of his hands so hard that we have this little area where our washer and dryer is, and there are metal doors that are on it. And he pushed me into the metal door. And then I fell back, and he got his knees on top of me on my arms here, so I was pinned down, and was starting to strangle me and hit my head up against the metal closet over and over and over and over and over it again, and calling me a fucking whore, and you're such a slut, and fuck you, and everything. And my tongue was flopping out of my mouth, and I thought I was going to bite my tongue off. And because of the amount of noise, I guess, my head was making on the metal door, he slid me down and got back on me, and then started to strangle me again. And it was on, we have carpet, but it's like concrete. And I was able to get my arms out from underneath and grab his throat and get him off of me. So I got him off of me, and I pushed him off, and he came up and he goes, you fucking bitch. And he stomped my face. And the next thing I know, I woke up. I obviously
Did you get
blacked
knocked
out.
out?
I'm obviously, I guess, yes. And he was passed out on the floor. And I woke up frantic, looking for my phone, and I immediately called 911.
Okay. The police arrived on that incident?
Yes, they did.
And the state of intoxication that he was at the time of this event, is that the state that scares you the most?
It's the tone, yes. There's a lot of alarms and red flags that go on throughout the day or night or whenever it is that we are drinking.
Tell us about that, how that heightens, does that heighten your sense of safety,
At all times.
but especially when he's drinking?
Oh, yes, all the time.
And then his mood?
Yes, it depends on what mood he's in that day.
Well, do you have like a sixth sense of how he's doing?
Yes, I knew George very well.
Can we see how it was that the two zipper parts were positioned when you say that Mr. Torres was able to get his hand out? If you want me to do it, I'm fine to take your direction.
From what I remember, this is how the suitcase was. This was up here. This was not this hard either. So this was like here.
Okay.
Right here.
About right there, ma'am?
Sure.
I assume this one was much closer? It's not over there? Where did you leave?
You asked me where I zipped it.
When you say that it was zipped shut, show us.
Are you talking about how I zipped it or?
When you're done zipping
Like
it
the
shut and he's inside of it, where are the zipper components?
Just tell me where it's at.
I mean, it was the corner. I mean, it's the corner was
Right
kind
here?
of open. I mean, it's not. Yes, this one was already pretty much, yes. From what I can remember. That's how he was coming with his hand out. It was like this from the corner part.
Okay. Thank you. You can return to your seat.